Hello everybody and welcome to this A Crusader Kings 3 Beginner's Guide, and today we are going to look at religion. Now every character in the game follows one religion or another, and to find out which this religion is, just like in my culture video and just like with culture, all you have to do is click on that character. Obviously I've just clicked on myself for ease, and here you can see there is my religious symbol, and there is the name of the religious faith that I follow. Now obviously holding over these will bring up the pop-up window and give you a little bit more information about these religious icons. And if I want to get even further information, I could of course just click on that and that will take me to my religion page. Another easy way of doing this is just at the bottom next to your culture and house buttons, you have your religion button. Now if I click on this, this will bring up my faith. So there you go. We've brought up my faith, and as you can see, I am part of the Insularism Insularism faith. Religion or faith, same thing. Now, I would also just like to point out at the beginning of this video, remember people, this is Crusader Kings 3 and it is a game. So the things I will mention in this game are relevant to Crusader Kings 3 and are not my personal beliefs or not things that I think about the real world. So I'd just like all of you to bear that in mind. Religion is a sensitive topic. So, a quick overview. There are lots of religions in Crusader Kings 3. If I simply zoom out, because of opening the religion tab has changed the map to the religion view, you can see all of these different colours and all of these different names are different religions. We have, as you can see, Insularism and Catholic, Orthodox. All of these, for instance, I know off the top of my head, are all Christian religions. Mozarabic, and I apologise for the pronunciation of these, Muwalladi, Ash'ari, I know for instance these are Muslim religions. If we go further to the east, we have Vaishnavites, which I know, and Shivites or Shivites, I apologise for the pronunciation, I know for instance they're Hindu religions. A little bit further across we have Khazarites, they are the Jewish religions. Tengri is the Mongol religion, and I believe we may even have somewhere around here, but I can't quite see it, there may even be Taoism, for instance. So as you can see, there are lots and lots of religions in Crusader Kings 3, and the ones I've mentioned, tip of the iceberg. So if we go back to us and our character, we are an Insularist. Now, of course, all the names and maps that you see at the moment, as in all of the counties, all of the colours, that is what those counties currently follow. So as you can see, most of Ireland is Insularist. Most of the rest of Great Britain is Catholic. Now, if you see any squares like this, as I mentioned in a previous video in the introduction, where they have checkered lines, that is because the count or duke in charge of that county is of a different faith to the people of that county. This will have slightly negative modifiers, but it is possible to change quite easily using councillor tasks, or if it's not actually your direct county, the council in charge of it may in fact change it themselves. Now, going back to the actual religion, and we will close the current screen because it is on Tengrism, and we will reopen our own religion, Insularism, and we will just have a quick look through the religion screen and how these things can affect you and your gameplay. Now, as you can see, we have Insularism, and this tells us that this is... I apologise. This tells us that this is an organised Christian faith. Now, there are two general categories of religions in the game, and they are organised and unreformed, or reformed and unreformed, if you will. And that basically means whether this is an unset religion, if you will, if it's, you know, almost, shall we say, druids worshipping in random sacred groves, or whether it has come together and become an official religion, all as one, so to say. So, and being an official religion will give you different perks to being an unofficial religion, but generally being a official religion will give you more structure and more control in terms of perks than being an unreformed religion. Now, just below that, obviously says it's my faith, and then just next to that it says further. Now, if I just highlight over this, you can read that box if you so wish, but further is basically how much people believe in this religion who are currently worshipping this religion. So obviously, if you have a further of 100%, all of the Insularists around the world are generally thinking this religion is the best thing since sliced bread. if you have a further, say, down in the 10 or 20%, then a lot of people in this religion will be questioning their beliefs, and you may start to get splinter religions forming from that religion. Just below that, we have a tab that will show us other faiths, but we will come back to that a little bit later. We will stick on our faith and just run through some of the key points. Now, at the top of your faith, and if you notice when I clicked on a few of the other faiths, these tabs are all the same, bar a few very minor differences. So, at the top, you will have tenets. These are the core beliefs of your religion. So, we believe, for instance, in monasticism, vows of poverty, and what is called rite. And as you can see as I hover over them, these have different effects on the people who are worshipping this religion and what they believe. For instance, this makes temperate, which is one of the traits, a virtue, and gluttonous a sin, one of the other traits. Just below this, we literally have a very easy breakdown of what this religion considers to be a sin and what it considers to be a virtue. Now, obviously, if you are considered to be a very virtuous character, you are going to generate a lot more piety than a sinful character. And this will also then give you bonuses when it comes to things like declaring holy wars, or, for instance, one thing with the Christian religion, or at least with Catholic, and I believe with Insullarists, is you can ask your head of faith for gold. I believe this might be true for other religions, but I'm not going to lie, I haven't tested this extremely, but I believe it to be true. And of course, if you are extremely sinful, your head of faith may, in fact, what would at least be for Catholics, excommunicate you. Which basically means that anybody else that follows your religion and is accepted in your religion, as in they are not excommunicated, you are basically fair game to them. It basically means that they can decide, oh, I want to take your lands off you because you are excommunicated and your lands deserve a better leader. Just below that, we have the main doctrines. Now, these are the same for all faiths, except I'm not going to lie, ecumenism is one that is just particular to this faith, although you will see it on other faiths, but generally you just have the three. And these are basically if your faith is male or female dominated or equal, whether you accept other faiths or not, and what kind of religion you are, as in, are you theocratic or are you spiritual? Basically, this is theocratic, and it has a head of faith, or you cannot have any head of faith, at which point you would be counted as more spiritual. And then just below that, you have different forms of doctrines, such as marriage doctrines. Marriage doctrines. As you can see, it's monogamous, divorce must be approved, consanguinity is basically how close to your family you can marry, and are bastards legitimate? And then, same going down, you have crime doctrines, whether things are considered criminal or not, clergy doctrines, and these basically affect whether you can appoint your own men of faith, whether, for instance, they're allowed to marry, and so this is more about your actual realm priests. And then, as you can see, for Insularism, just below this one, we in fact have a special doctrine. Now, not all religions will have special doctrines, but as you can see, this one does. And as I hover over it, you can give that a quick read whilst I just keep talking. As you can see just below this, we also have a head of faith. As I mentioned, not all religions will have a head of faith. I'm getting my THs and my Fs all mixed up. But this one currently does. Catholicism and Insularism both do. I know that off the top of my head, but as I said, I'm not 100% sure about all the religions on this game, but some will and some won't. And again, having a religious head and not having a religious head will give different benefits and drawbacks. As you can see, the head of faith for this one is spiritual. You can, in fact, create a religion where the head of faith is not spiritual, it will be theocratic, and you can, in fact, be the head of your own faith. And as you can see, the head of faith is spiritual, and it is the papacy, aka it's the Pope, which I'm sure most of you already know for Catholicism, and in this case, Insularism. And of course, here is a picture of my head of faith. So if I ever want to find my head of faith very easily, I just need to come to the religious tab. Here's my head of faith. I can either click on him to bring up his information, or if I quickly pop back to the religion tab for you, I could have simply right-clicked on him, and that will show me the options and the things I can do with my head of faith. Now, the other things on this tab right at the bottom, you can obviously probably read this button. It says create a new Christian faith. Say, for instance, I wasn't very happy with my faith. I thought it could do with maybe a bit of tweaking. I can choose to create a new Christian faith. And to do so is very simple. I click on this button, and then I choose the things that I want in my religion. For instance, I'm like, no, I don't want my head of faith to be spiritual. I want my head of faith to be temporal, except, as you can see, that's blurred out because of the reasons given. I can't have theocratical clerical tradition and a temporal head of faith. Or, for instance, I might decide, no, do you know what? I don't like vows of poverty. I want to be rich. So I'm going to click on vows of poverty and I'm like, do you know what? I prefer armed pilgrimages because we're going to become a violent holy order. At which point you just click on it and it will change. And then the more changes you do, the more it will cost you in piety to create the new faith. So as you can see, it comes up with a cost here. And then I would just click create faith, assuming I have enough piety. And just with on the culture video, and it mentions which vassals will follow you into this new religion. As you can see, it says 0 of 1 vassals will convert. So if I show my vassals, it shows obviously my only vassal, and it shows that he will not convert. This is usually broken down to if they like you, they'll convert. If they don't, they won't. There are a few other factors that help control this. For instance, if they're an extremely zealous character, they are unlikely to convert because obviously they believe their religion is the best thing since sliced bread. Now, if I close this screen, obviously I'm not going to go and create a new faith, but also, just as a top tip, if you are creating a new faith, obviously you have to choose a name, but do not forget to click on this and assign yourself a new symbol. Otherwise, the game will automatically assign you a symbol. I did this on one of my playthroughs. I had a religion that worshipped Ganesh with the Catholic cross as its symbol. Trust me, I looked silly. If I go back to the religion screen, here we are, right where we left off. The other tab at the top is holy sites. Now, every religion will have 5 holy sites. In fact, I do lie, apologies. Some have more than 5 holy sites. For instance, when I changed my Hindu religion, I believe there were 7 off the top of my head. But every religion will at least have some holy sites. And if you look at these, you will be able to see where they are and who is in control of them. So as you can see, we have 5 holy sites. This one down here, which is completely in, should we say, a normal color, and also has my faith's symbol on it, is controlled by Inshallarist. And so because of that, we get a perk. These other ones are not controlled by Inshallarist. As you can see, they're in red, and they have somebody else's symbol next to them. These, as you can see as well, which are very simple, are in Jerusalem, Rome, Canterbury, and Iona. Now, you may not know where some of these places are. I'm not going to lie, I know where the top 3 are off the top of my head. However, this is because I'm fairly known about... I know a bit about the Catholic religion and Crusader Kings 3, having played previous games. However, I'm not 100% sure where Iona is, but that's not a problem. If I was trying to conquer more of my holy sites to get the extra benefits, and I wanted to find them, obviously I could just click on my religion, and then if I zoom out, you will notice there are symbols on the map. These symbols correspond with all of the holy sites. However, even if I've gone and done that, and I'm having quite a lot of difficulty finding one of my holy sites, this little arrow here, ladies and gentlemen, is simply go to location. So there you go. There's Iona right there. So if I conquer that duchy, and the person in charge of it is Inshallarist, I will get the benefits listed there. County conversion speed in British Isles plus 30%. And this is the same for all of the holy sites. Now, obviously, as you can see then, the more holy sites you control, the more benefits you are going to get. And as you may have picked up on me mention it, it's not just enough for it to be in your territory. It can, in fact, be in anybody's territory. It's just the person that controls it needs to be of your religion. For instance, if for some weird reason, which don't get me wrong folks, would not happen in this game, but the Pope decided to become an Inshallarist, then Rome, who the papacy currently control, would in fact become Inshallarist, and we would get the benefits. And that is all for holy sites. Now, to create a new religion, which I can't do, On this tab, it can only create a new Christian faith, but if you were to create a new religion, you would then start probably with 1, maybe 0 holy sites, and then to reform a religion, you would also then have a button at the bottom of the screen, just like this one, which would simply say Reform Faith, or Reform, say, Insularism. And to do so, you would have to hold at least 3 of the 5 of your holy sites. But if you're ever confused with what you need, if you obviously click on this button, there's always red things here that tell you what you are missing to be able to change your faith. Now, let us reopen that screen. And as I mentioned, there are other faiths. And if you ever wanted to look at these other faiths, maybe just for a quick scan, or maybe you were thinking, I want to change my faith. You can see what other faiths there are in the world. Now, if I click on other faiths, it will bring up all the other faiths. But as you can see, it's just Christian faiths because that's what's ticked. Obviously, if I wasn't in a Christian faith, that would be, for instance, say, just Muslim faiths if I was already in a Muslim religion. Now, as you can see, this is the list of all of the Christian faiths. Some down the bottom, all greyed out. That's because they don't exist. The ones at the top in more solid, they exist somewhere in the world. And then you can see a little bit of information about them. For instance, their further levels, as in how pious their followers are, how much they believe in that sect of Christianity, and then how many counties are following this faith. So if I wanted to look at all of the religions, I would simply untick this box, and then as you can see, it's chucked all of the rest of the religions in there. And as you can see on the right, it tells you what kind of faith it is. So Christian, Muslim, Christian, Steppe, Finno-Ugric, Buddhist, Siberian. As I said, there are a lot of religions in Crusader Kings 3. And obviously then if I scroll down to the bottom, obviously you can see all these different faiths. You will eventually then come across all of these faiths which do not exist. Some of which can be created through events in the game. Some of which will have to be created in other ways. I'm not going to lie, I'm not going to go into great detail of how to create every single faith on the game. So, if we scroll back up to the top and say, for instance, let's just pick the second one, Charism. Convert to faith. So, if I decided, no, do you know what? For the reasons of my roleplay, I have decided that I want to make this area the ruler. He was secretly of another faith, and he is now going to announce himself to the world, and he's going to attempt to conquer this region in the name of his new god. As a rough example. Now, I could then convert to another faith. To do so, like I said, I found the faith. All I would have to then do is click Convert to Faith. As per always, this has a cost. Now, this cost is changed by several things. Undiscounted doctrine cost will cost me 12,000. That is because not only am I changing faith, I am changing faith to a completely different religion. Now, as you can see, I am missing most of that because I've just started the game and so I don't have a lot of piety. But you can also see there are certain things that affect this. For instance, learning. Because I am quite a learned character, 5% off. Converting to an existing faith, minus 35%. If I was trying to convert to a brand new faith, it would then cost more. Or your faith is pluralist, which basically means that my faith is slightly accepting. So again, it's going to cost me a little bit less. However, as I mentioned, because I'm converting to a completely different religion, that then puts it up even further. So, without any of these modifiers, this would actually be quite a bit cheaper. However, with all these modifiers, it greatly increases the cost. And so just to give you a further example, if I go other faiths, there you go. As I'm on a Muslim screen, it's just came up with Muslim faiths. If I click on Orthodoxy, which is another Christian faith, as you can see, it's a lot cheaper because that plus 100% from it being a different religion is not there. And of course, one of the most expensive ones you can do is to attempt to bring back an unknown faith of a different faith. A unknown sect, shall we say, or unknown sub-religion of a completely different faith. For instance, if we go Zoroastrian, I don't think there's any of those in the game at the beginning off the top of my head. So if I click on this, I click Convert to Faith. I want to bring this religion back and once again conquer the world in its name. As you can see, it's quite expensive. Converting to a different religious family costs me a plus 200%. Oh, converting to an existing faith does still count there. So there you go. This does exist somewhere in the world. Zoroastrianism. But if it wasn't, obviously that minus 35% wouldn't be there. And as I said, depending on what religion you are, depends on how other characters see you. At a quick breakdown, people of your faith, of course, they like you just fine. People of other sub-faiths, but in your still parent faith, for instance, Catholic versus Orthodox, or even Catholic versus Insularism, they like each other a little bit less. It's like, oh, do you know what? You still worship the right God, but you're doing it in a weird way. Now, obviously, if we're talking different faiths, that's where you then get the biggest penalties. For instance, Catholics versus Muslims, Muslims versus Hindus, Hindus versus Norse. They are obviously all going to be of very different faiths, and they are then going to have negative modifiers between them. So, other than that, there's not really a lot to talk about when it comes to religion. There will, of course, be different mechanics that then, like I said, affect how you can interact with certain people, or even, for instance, your head of faith. But we will go into reacting and interacting with other players in a separate video. So I hope you've all enjoyed the video. I hope you've learned a little bit about religion, and I hope you can take this back to your gameplay and use this to interact with other players and figure out maybe some of the things that you can and can't do depending on your religion. And just as a top tip, guys, don't be that one guy that follows a hostile religion in the middle of everybody else. Trust me, it's not pretty. If you'd like to see an example of this, jump on YouTube, watch my Pendragon campaign as we're currently going, as I am bringing back the Druids in the middle of Catholic Britain, and more to the point, surrounded by Catholic Europe. You'll see a lot of fun going on, folks, I promise you, just to show you exactly what happens when you do attempt to change to a completely hostile religion. Well, folks, as I said, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you've learned something. If you have any comments or any questions, stick them below. And if you have enjoyed it, feel free to hit that like and subscribe button. And I hope to see you in my other videos. Thank you very much, and we'll catch you next time.